So with the winter approaching here in New York, it gets, really cold. Even though I put a really, heavy duty insulated garage door on there, I'm not going to be able to do any woodworking in the winter unless I heat this thing up. Because if it's 30 degrees outside, it's only going to be about 45 to 50 in here. And anybody that's used polyurethane or stains or anything like that, you know that you can't spray or apply any of that stuff in less than 65 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is I bought this heater. It runs off of 220. I have a 220 receptacle for my air compressor. This is about 5,000 BTUs. My garage is 14.5 by 21, so this is plenty of heat to get this garage going in about 20 minutes to 25 minutes. The whole thing should be at the temperature. It has an ice dial gauge on the back. You can adjust the temperature with that. Right now I have it set completely off. I'm going to hook up this bracket, and then we're going to mount it on the wall. I found the location already right above my air hose. I can aim it exactly where I need to, and it should dissipate the heat all throughout the shop and get this thing warm. So when I'm ready to work, just click it, turn it on, and let it set and heat up the shop for a little while. And that's it. And I come down here and do whatever I got to do. I found the location where I'm going to place this. It's going to be right here on the beam, and it's going to hang down just above my air hose. And I'm going to have to use these locking 4-inch bolts, well, actually screws. What they'll do is they're like leg screws. They're going to go all the way through the sheetrock and into the beam and give me a really good bite. You can't, afford to let this thing sit on like a 2-inch screw because, number one, by the time it gets into the beam through the sheetrock, if you have half-8, this is 5/8 sheetrock, so it's already thick. And it's also fireproof, so they had to use 5/8. So what happens is that once it goes through there, then it's going to go into the beam. You're only going to have use a 2-inch screw. You're only going to have about an inch and a half into it. You really want to have as much as you can all the way through the beam so that there's no play at all and it has no chance of falling. All right, so now that I found the location, I didn't paint these walls, so since I have the plaster marks over the screw holes, I know exactly where the beam's going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw that in now, and then we'll hook up the heater. Let's see which is the best way to do it. I'm going to say that way right there. All right, so let's get the first one in. Now I'm just starting it into the sheetrock by hand, and then I'm going to drive it in with an impact driver. All right, one more to go. I can pretty much hang my whole body weight on that, so I'm going to say that heater's not going anywhere. So let me get the heater, and we're going to hook it up to the bracket and plug it in. Now once I have this tightened up, I can adjust and aim the angle of the heater because it has little lock knobs on the side, and I can position it a little more down so that it heats the shop quicker, because we all know hot air rises. Since hot air rises, we don't want it to be blowing up at the ceiling. We want to have it aimed down a little bit. So this way, when it blows out, it'll actually move in that direction. So what you do is we have these knobs on the side. You can take those out. I'm going to take out one at a time so it doesn't fall on my head. Okay. There's one. Take the other one out. And once I get this out, this is like a stop. So now I can position it. There are 2 holes behind it. I can actually aim it. Might have to loosen up the bracket. There we go. I guess I didn't have to loosen it. All right. So then what you do, thread the screws back in. Just make sure you line it up with the hole in the heater, and then you're aiming a little bit more downwards. So you can see right between the brackets. So now that that's lined up, I'm going to tighten up these thumb screws. We're going to plug in the heater, and we're going to check it out. All right, one last tighten up here. I'm going to aim it right there, and that's where I want to keep it, right there. Now it's all snugged up. Move this ladder out of the way. We have our 220. Here's our receptacle. Plug it in. And now on the back is the knob. All I have to do is click it on. Turn it clockwise. And here's the heater. That's already blowing hot air. All right, guys, that's it. So I let this sit for about a half an hour and it'll warm up the shop in the winter and I'll have no problems. All right, I'll see you next time.